You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hello there. Welcome to today's podcast. Thank you very much for spending time with me. I super appreciate you. You know I do. I want to get right into this episode with my dude Ray, but before I do, there's just a little bit of something I gotta say. This episode is dropping on Monday, May 16th. Coincidentally, or I don't know, it's not a coincidence, but whatever, I am flying out to Nashville, Tennessee. So if you're in Nashville, and you're going to be in Nashville from the 16th through the 23rd, I am planning on having some sort of Tone Mob meetup. I hope that works. I know this is a little bit last minute, but I am planning on, meeting somewhere to check out some guitars or possibly meeting to grab some bites. I'm planning on doing that on Saturday the 21st. So barring any unseen circumstances, pay attention to the Tone Mob socials. If you're in the Facebook group, pay attention there. If you are in the text chat, look for some messages from me. Instagram, all the places you usually hear from me. I will be announcing something a little more concrete very soon, but know that I am in Nashville and I'm looking to eat some food and hang out with some Tone Mobsters. So that's it. That's all for this one. Let's get right into this episode with my dude, Stay Metal Ray. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Stay Metal Ray. What's going on, dude?
What's up, man?
Woo.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really sincerely appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I just can't wait to talk all things guitar and whatever else we got going on.
Yeah, I'm sure we might talk about guitars. I don't know.
I hope so, dude.
It happens sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't.
Right
it's
on.
Shocking how much not guitar content happens on this podcast, but I suppose that's the nature of conversation, right?
Whatever happens, man. I'm here for it.
So I'm sure that some of your people are coming over here and they're familiar with you already, but I know that I don't just have fans of heavy music that listen to this podcast. There's people from all genres that tune in and talk about, the delay pedals and whatever.
Right.
So for those people who aren't familiar with you, maybe we can go, a 30,000 foot view backstory and we can go from there.
All right. Well, you want me to start from I'm confused. You want me to start Say that again. That confused me.
Oh, okay. Well, I can say things very confusing. I just want to get your backstory when you started playing, what got you down the road that led you to where you are today.
Okay, I thought you said I want a 30,000 foot tell everybody who you are with a 30,000 foot something or other. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it's a random figure of speech.
No worries, man. So everybody, my name's Ray. I go by the moniker Stay Metal Ray on predominantly YouTube as well as Instagram and TikTok and stuff. But yeah, man. So obviously I'm a guitar player and I've been doing it for give or take 19 years now.
Wow.
It hasn't been a consistent, but it's been off and on for 19 years. But it all started at the age of 11 when my dad got me my first. It was actually an acoustic guitar. It was called an Applause, which is the Squire to Fender equivalent of Ovation.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Applause, Ovation. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, that was my first guitar. Reason why I got it is because my dad had played guitar, and my dad was a huge fan of heavy music and just rock and roll, all the above, as well as my mom to some degree. So music was always around and in the house and stuff. So that was just kind of my initial love for the music, and then the guitar came a couple years later. But I played that Applause for a while, and then I got this on Christmas Day in 2003.
Oh, yeah. BC Rich.
Yeah, so this was a BC Rich Kerry King starter pack with like the tribal, warlock and everything. But I painted it like Eddie Van Halen shortly after I got it, as you do.
I like that vibe.
Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, like that was like just the very beginning and infancy of my love for the guitar and all that, just being around it. And when I was like, 11, 12 years old, I was fortunate enough to get 2 guitars. That was like the beginning of it all.
Nice. That's amazing.
Thanks, man.
And what were you listening to at the time?
Oh, man, I was listening to a whole bunch of stuff. Again, just kind of growing up with my dad's music and stuff. He was a big fan of Zeppelin and like the Sex Pistols and Van Halen, like that kind of classic rock, but also he had a little bit of like a punk new wave flavor to him, like the Clash he liked. So I got all his music at a really young age. But then like when it was my turn to like discover my own music, this is like when I was like 6 or 7, and bands like Limp Bizkit were really popular. So like Significant Other and Chocolate Starfish, Hot Dog Flavored Water. I was listening to that. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory.
Oh yeah.
Creed, Human Clay.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I was super pumped on that record. But yeah, like it's funny. Like I had an amalgamation of music stuff that I was listening to by default because I was always around my dad. And also too, just growing up in like late 90s, early 2000s, getting hit with all the funny new metal music that, I still love to this day, but that's what I was listening to at that point in time.
It's funny how that has, there was this weird time frame where all of that was popping off, everyone was going around screaming Papa Roach songs. And, like Hybrid Theory is one that I remember really clearly. I remember I'm sitting in my mom's like Chevy Cavalier in a Safeway parking lot while she's like, do you want to sit in here and listen to the radio, or do you want to come into the grocery store? I'm like, I want to sit in here and listen to the radio.
Wow.
Like I don't remember, really young. And Linkin Park came on, and that was the first time that I'd recognized that I was hearing like straight up screaming in music.
Do you remember what song it was?
It was the One Step Closer.
Okay,
the big one, I was like, you can just do that. Like people can just scream at the top of their lungs in a song, and that's like, I'm like, this is awesome. I remember just hearing that and just freaking out, like totally like, I'm like, this is what I'm into. Like Linkin Park really, like, people might want to like say whatever they want to say about that band, but they opened the doors to a whole world of extremely heavy music for me that I may never have ever like sought out, from there. Cause like I found Slipknot, and then, you just go further and further down the rabbit hole. It's like, right. Converge. I like this. Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like, I was like, I like to think we're probably in the same ballpark in age. Like I just turned 30. So like I was real young during this time, but it was so crazy. Like when I was 9 or 10 years old, like you said, hearing heavy screaming music, one on the radio, and two to where like, it wasn't like terrifying or whatever. Like it was listenable. So it was crazy how like, Chester and or Linkin Park kind of pushed all that into the acceptable mainstream for that time frame. It was kind of cool.
It's really cool. I think they probably don't get the credit that they deserve for how many kids discovered like actually like more extreme metal through Linkin Park. And it sounds maybe kind of cheesy to say, but like everyone has a band like that. People discover punk through Blink-182, that's how it goes. Like you never, very, very few people, I mean, maybe my kids are like somewhat the exception, but very few people just like wake up and they're like, deathcore. I've been listening to At the Gates since I was a small child,
ready to start first grade and, gonna learn how to spell and on the way to school or whatever. Yeah. Like you don't just start there. Yeah.
No, you start with, whatever your parents listen to, and then eventually you branch out from there. And my parents were, they wouldn't just let me do anything that I wanted, which is good because I would have definitely killed myself. But they were extremely tolerant of my musical like explorations, even though it was not at all what they were into. Like, my parents, like my mom didn't really like, she kind of like was like, she scratched her chin a little bit the first time I brought an Unearth record home, but like it wasn't like a big deal, you know. They were definitely like,
Right.
"Oh, is this all okay? Are you all right?" Like, because they're used to listening to like old school country and stuff, which I love too. But it's just such a departure, you know. If one day your kid's listening to Waylon Jennings and the next day they're listening to Unearthed, you might be like, "I don't know what that is."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like, it sounds like you had like, you know, your parents were like the cool parents in a way, like, you know, they kind of let you, they weren't like sheltering you from like your musical endeavors and passions, right?
They definitely encouraged, you know, me to play music. You know, I've told this story a lot on the podcast, but originally I thought I was going to play drums, which I am not good at all.
Okay.
But, you know, immediately, instead of like learning to play, you know, just a regular rock beat, I was like, well, I want to play like System of a Down. And so I'd crank my System of a Down record in my bedroom, you know, where my mom's in the kitchen like 20 feet away. And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to play things I have no business playing, on top of it being like a very unfamiliar music to, you know, your average middle class mom.
Right.
And so then they never told me I couldn't do it. You know, I'd have to ask permission because it's obviously loud. And I was like, "Can I play my
Right.
drums today?" And she'd be like, "Okay."
But that's cool though. That's awesome. You know, like, you know,
Yeah.
like she was, you know, encouraging that behavior because, you know, I was never a drummer, but I, you know, I've heard a lot of the like, I don't want to call them horror stories, but cliche stories of like kids trying to learn how to play drums, and you know, they have like, you know, it's obviously too loud, so like they have a certain time frame or, you know, whatever, like it's out in the garage and whatever. So, you know, it's cool that, you know, you had that experience, I guess, you know, growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even know if I could be that patient, to be honest, with my own kids. Like, I really don't know that I would quite have that level of patience, even though I really want them to pursue musical things. I'm just, my son's trying to learn drums right now, and I'm just super lucky that I can be like, "Cool, come out here to the shred shed and you learn
Yeah.
to play drums and you won't bother anyone," you know?
Right.
He can just bang on them as loud and as long as he wants, and nobody's going to care, which is really helpful. So I'm kind of spoiled that way.
You know, over time, like he's just going to turn into an absolute like drum monster. Like he's just going to be so good back, you know, in the shed. And one day he's just going to emerge like killing it on drums.
I hope so. He's only 6, and you know, he's holding it a lot. He's holding it down a lot better than I could have at 6. So
Yeah.
he's not a prodigy by any means, but he's definitely like working on it and he's making progress. So
That's awesome, dude. That's all we can do, right?
I mean,
I'm still trying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still working on my craft, I guess.
absolutely. I'm not that good of a guitar player, and I've been playing for, probably somewhere in the same ballpark as you have, you know, 20 plus years at this point.
Yeah.
So you do it because
Yeah,
you
I
love
mean-
it, right?
Exactly. And, you know, I don't know. It's kind of on a more kind of we're kind of being like kind of silly right now, but like on a serious note, I've learned like over the years, I really have let go of that fear of like trying to be technically like proficient. Like, you know what I mean? Like I kind of just learned over the years, like these are my skills. This is what I've got, you know, like, and do the best with it what you will. Like that's how people develop their own styles and stuff because of, you know, like their limitations of technical ability, but what somebody might lack in technicality might, you know, have more of a creative mind or whatever. So, you know, like I don't know, I just kind of want to bring that up as like a talking point. Is like I learned over the years, you don't really have to be so focused on like how good you are, like objectively good you are of a musician. You know what I mean? Is that making any sense?
Totally. 100%. No, I mean, admittedly, like when I first started doing internet stuff, I was a little more self-conscious about it. I was like,
As was
oh
I.
man, I'm not Steve Vai, so do I have any business like doing this at all? And over time, I think the big breaking point for me was actually at NAMM. It was kind of a weird experience for somebody who was a little bit of a shy guitar player. Like I don't have
Okay.
a lot of interest in playing publicly. I'm more of a recording studio player.
Okay.
And so I was just testing some pedals out at the Keeley booth, and literally for myself, like I wasn't demoing them. I was just like
Right.
playing. Guy come up, he's like, he thought I was the demo guy, and he was like, "Hey, can you show me what that filament sounds like?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "Oh, I don't work here."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't do anything impressive. It was just like a couple chunky riffs, you know. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Cool, man, thanks." And then he walked. I'm like, "Oh, that was actually good enough for him."
Yeah.
You know, like he's probably a better player than I am technically, but like he was like, "I just want to hear what that pedal sounds like." And then I realized, oh, for what I do, people just want to hear what the pedal sounds like. And sometimes if it's too complicated, that's actually not helpful. You know, you just need to hear what it's doing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, I know what you mean. Like that whole, like, you know, you're so, at least I was personally, like, not necessarily self-conscious, but I knew there was other monster players out there. And so like, you kind of have to like, almost like, for me, it was like learn like your niche and what you're really good at and just be really good at that. Like be the best, you know, it's kind of cliche, but be the best version of yourself and not have to be so worried on, I guess, like approval or like I said, like, I just view it as like, you don't have to be so technically proficient, especially in the metal genre per se.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I really appreciate technical proficiency, but when I think back to like my favorite songs and my favorite players, most of the time it's not the most technically proficient person. It's like who has the best riffs?
Who? Like who? I'm just curious.
Oh, like, I mean, off the top of my head, like, I mean, it's not that he's not good, but like I really love Andy from Every Time I Die. I love how the riffs they come up with in that band are just tremendous. And I don't know between Andy and Jordan like who writes everything exactly, but some of my favorite riffs are like Every Time I Die riffs, and they're not necessarily, in fact, some of my favorites are the easiest to play. They just sound, they're just sick. Like they're just
they
awesome
sound
riffs.
awesome.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big Nirvana fan, you know. I don't think anybody would say that Kurt Cobain's the best guitar player on the planet, even himself. That was kind of the whole point, right? Is that he wasn't. And so just I too like grew up with a lot of punk rock stuff, and so just learning that like you can just do it. You know, you can just do your thing and let it come out, and that's good enough. Oftentimes, some of the best musicians of all time are not necessarily the best musicians of all time from a technical standpoint.
Right. You know, you bring up like the easier riffs or like the sickest riffs. Whenever I teach like lessons and stuff, I always bring up what I think is like the best metal riff of all time is 2 notes, and that's "Walk" by Pantera.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a minor second and a cool little bend, and that's it. Like 2 notes. It's the simplest riff, and it's like probably the most recognizable metal riff. You know, just it's awesome to hear every single time. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be technically, you know, complicated. You could still impress somebody with just 2 notes.
Yeah, I love that riff. Every time you hear it too, you know, you're like, oh, you get a little stink face going. You're like, here it comes.
Doesn't matter where you are, at grocery store, you know, sporting event. It's just like, it's sick every time. You know,
every single time it gets you right in the feels. But you know, on the other side of the coin, it's actually, I feel like, a little bit harder to find extremely technical music. Well, I was going to say guitar players, but it probably goes out to music in general that kind of can, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's difficult to find somebody who's like super melodically interesting while also being very technical, which is why Yvette Young's like one of my favorite players, because she's crazy technical, but like it's really nice to listen to at the same time. It's like, this is pretty, and this like flows the way it should. But sometimes people get a little too shreddy, and it just becomes, you know, and it's like I don't know what to do with that. I can't headbang to that. I can't dance to that. You know?
Yeah, that's funny. You bring up a good point. Like I think I'm not the biggest Steve Vai fan per se, but I only bring that up because I'm relatively naive to his playing and his style. But like when I think of like somebody that's like incredibly technically proficient but still melodic, I think of like Steve Vai.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, I'm amazed by his playing, but I'm just saying I'm not the biggest fan because I don't want to speak out of, you know, ignorance on his playing. But like the fair amount that I've listened to, it's very melodic and it's fast when it needs to be, but it still has like a chorus and it still has song structure and things like that. So I think that's really cool with that, like bridging the gap of like being technical and being a master at your craft, but not necessarily have to show it every single time, like in terms of speed.
That's a really good example. I think back to like one of my friend's brothers back in the day who technically was one of the best guitarists I've ever heard from I can play this solo standpoint, but that's all he could play. He would only practice the hard parts, and then you'd be like, let's play the song. And he didn't know how to play any of the other parts. And so I'm like, that doesn't do anything. I mean, I'm glad that like he enjoyed doing that, but as far as like trying to play with a band or trying to write music, it's not that helpful really at the end of the day.
Did he come up with his own music at all?
Not
like,
really.
Was he just like
not
good
to
at
my knowledge?
Okay. So like his bread and butter was literally just guitar solo covers.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and specifically like mostly hair metal. Yeah, and as far as I know, that's all he played forever. I don't even know if he really plays that much anymore. Still one of the best guitarists I've ever seen, but like he couldn't play a song, and that's like, I mean, then I guess then to my question is like, well, then what's the point? I guess if we can't play a song together, you know. Yeah, I'm not trying to critique him. I think he was happy, but it was.
I've never heard of that. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. I guess, you know, whatever. I can't play any '80s hair metal solos, so you know. That's
a good point. Me either.
So I mean,
I can play Walk though. I can play Walk. I can do that.
Hell yeah, me too, dude.
So let's talk about your gear journey a little bit. Like, so we talked about how you started getting into heavier stuff. Did you immediately then go, start, buy a Metal Zone and like start exploring that world, or how did that go for you?
Dude, my gear journey is very, very odd. Like I got like 2 pedals when I was with my BC Rich Warlock. It's just over here. I'm looking at it. Boss Metal Zone, literally the first one, and then a Boss DS1, the orange one. Mm-hmm. Being 12, 13 years old, and every time a holiday and or birthday came, I would get something cool, and I got those 2 in this time frame. And yeah, dude, like did the cliche, just use the Metal Zone and just cranked it up on my like BC Rich 1x8 whatever combo, and just let it rip, and it was awesome. Of course. Yeah, it was like the quintessential cliche metal guitar players like starter pack, BC Rich Warlock and a Boss Metal Zone. It's like it's metal, it's so cliche, but it's kind of cool how that happened.
It is.
But then like I didn't really play guitar too much like in my like teens and stuff. I kind of just plinked around on that same guitar for a while. And then I ultimately got back into it over the years, and I got a Marshall combo amp, and then my dad got me a really used, beat up Gibson Les Paul Studio that we kind of shared. It was like our guitar.
Nice.
So that was cool. Like it was a nice upgrade combo amp, solid state combo amp, and a Les Paul Studio. But again, then shortly after that, I went and joined the military and had no time to play. So again, it kind of just became a hobby. And it wasn't until after I got out of the military, due to injury, that's when I took it super serious. And that was the start of like my whole YouTube channel and everything. So I was relatively naive to gear and all that prior to starting YouTube. I did that as a like curiosity thing, but also for content. And I kind of am learning along the way. I never claimed that I like know much at all. It's like I'm figuring it out just like everybody else type of deal.
Right. So do you find that like learning in front of people is a challenge, or learning about gear specifically in front of people is kind of a challenge, or was that part of the fun?
Oh, dude, it was. Let's see, like my initial thought was gonna be, it was a challenge, but then I'm like sitting here thinking about it, but it's like a double-edged sword or whatever. Like, I'll explain. So, like, yeah, it was incredibly challenging because as soon as you say something incorrect, everybody lets you know, and that's fine. But it's the brutal reality and honesty of the internet.
Yep.
You got to learn quick, otherwise, you're going to lose people's interests or just it's inaccurate for lack of a better description. But what was also great, I said it was challenging, but it was also kind of fun in the sense that I learned way faster by putting myself out there and like submerging myself in guitar gear, technical proficiency on the instrument, like, just practicing and stuff, as well as music theory. Like I still am, but I was 100% invested in just all things music, guitar, recording, all the above as fast as I could. And I think I'm better off for it because like it forced the issue, like I said.
Yeah. Did you start your YouTube channel with the intent to, for lack of a better term, like be a YouTuber, or were you just like, let's see what happens?
It was kind of neither. What it was I had 30 days off of work. I had one of a dozen surgeries on my arm. So I had 30 days to do absolutely nothing. Couldn't work, couldn't do anything. So I was just laid up in bed at home, and I was just like, dude, I want to play guitar. I just want to like kind of slide. I couldn't move my right arm, so I like would slide it under my arm and just kind of sit it here. And I was like kind of a therapy thing or whatever. But anyway, getting to the question. During that time frame, I was like, dude, I have so many songs in my head, like that I've been playing for at the time over 10 years, I think. I just want to get them out of my head and have them documented somewhere. So YouTube was like, oh, you can just like record yourself, obviously doing whatever on the internet. But for me, it was just like a catalog to get all the songs, all the covers that I had in my head out. So I didn't have to keep, relearning how to play Laid to Rest, or, you know what I mean? Like I love playing those riffs and everything, but I'm tired of holding on to that memory. I want to learn new stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to get them out and catalog them for myself. And then just watching other guitar players running their YouTube channels and see how much more successful they are to me at the time. Not that I was, I just started, but like still had nothing. And then I saw how people are like using this platform as a business and as a way to get themselves out there. And then that kind of like just sparked more of a desire to be better at it. And that kind of over the years slowly changed my content approach. And then now I'm doing, what I'm doing now, and covers aren't even a thing at all now.
Right. Yeah, you do a lot of different stuff, but recently you came out with a solo record. Is that something you ever thought you would do?
So I announced it. It is not out yet.
Oh, it's not out yet. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's all good. It's out in June 24th. So is that something I thought I would do? Yeah. At the time, I guess not, but like relatively quickly, within like the first year, I wanted to come up with original stuff. So I got that itch and that desire to create pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Just again, kind of like as a self thing, just seeing what I can do, see what I can create. And then over the years, like my YouTube content has changed, my desire and my passion for the instrument has changed in a new way, to where like now I just want to be as original as I can and do my own thing 100%. So I knew pretty early on I wanted to do it, but this is like my first time I've really put a ton of time, money, energy, effort, all the above into it. And I'm just really stoked on it. So I knew it was going to happen, just took a while, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's something that I always thought I was going to do too. And then when I finally did it, it was nothing like I had imagined a solo record from me was going to be, like, at all. And so that was like coming to terms with that was a little bit hard at first. I was like, where are these weird sounds coming from? And like, why can't I just like write an acoustic song? Like,
what do you mean weird sounds? Like how you're composing and writing?
Yeah, well, the listeners know this, but like my record is like really based on pedals. Which probably isn't that surprising if you look at any of my content, but like it's I'm playing the pedals as much as I am the guitar, and so they just
I understand.
It's very like shoegazy, soundscapey, cinematic type stuff, and they're weird. They're weird sounds. Sometimes it doesn't sound like a guitar at all. In fact, one of the most guitar sounding parts on the record is actually a Rhodes piano. So
that's so rad.
The rest of it's like this barely sounds like a guitar, but I just didn't know where that was coming from, and I had to, with help from my wife, just like learn to accept like, hey, maybe you don't like make music like what you normally listen to. Maybe you make music like this. And some of the comparisons that people made, I was like, wow, these are not like, I didn't spend much time listening to Explosions in the Sky or Godspeed You Black Emperor. I have now, but like some people have been like, oh, it's kind of like that. I'm like, why did my brain do this? I don't know.
That's amazing that you have like that creative side to you that you didn't even know was there,
Yeah, I had no idea. And I've kind of learned to embrace it and just roll with it. That was the big thing that she told me. I said, I don't think this is what I do. And she said, maybe it is. Maybe it is what you do, or something to that, along those lines. I was like, oh, I guess why fight it then? I like it.
Yeah.
So why fight it?
You created it, initially, and you liked it enough to hit record and keep, you know what I mean? Like, you did do it. So, like, you obviously did it because you thought it sounded cool in the moment. You captured that moment in time. So there's something, magical there for you personally. Like, you know what I mean? Like a personal connection.
There was a few times where I got done and I was listening back, and I even bounced it out to my phone and kind of just stood outside and was listening to it, and I was like, did I, not like Steve Urkel, but like, did I do that? Like,
yeah.
I was like, that's so okay. All right, we'll just go with it then. So
that's amazing though. It's amazing that you're able to shock yourself.
Yeah.
With what you create. That's really cool, man.
It was weird. It was weird. And I like I said, I've learned to embrace it now, but it did take a while to get my head around. But your stuff seems like, I'm like, yeah, this, at least the clips that I've heard, I'm like, that's what I would expect him to do. Like,
yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, super sick riffs. Like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's
yeah. Oh man, I feel let down. No surprises, huh?
I don't know. I haven't heard the record yet.
Totally predictable record. No, I'm just kidding. But that's good though. At least the little teasers that I've announced at the time of this being recorded sound like right up my alley, I guess, and sound rad. So thank you.
Well, they gave me the same that walk stink face we were talking about. Some of I was like, oh yeah, oh I can't wait to hear this. This is gonna be awesome.
Thanks, man. That's very kind of you. Thanks, dude.
Did you record it there in your studio, or did you go somewhere else?
So I recorded it here, right in this very spot, and then I had it shipped off to Texas, to San Antonio, Texas. My friend Fernando, he's a drummer on YouTube, but he's also in the band Lions at the Gate, which is like an El Nino kind of supergroup.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so Christian's the singer and Fernando's the drummer. So I just really love those dudes, and I'm like I love that band. I'm proud of them, but yeah, anyway, the drummer, Fernando, had all the stems, and he mixed it all and then sent it all back to me.
Got it.
Yeah. It's all DIs. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just saying it was all DIs. I don't even know what the guitar tones were. I didn't ask it. But
really?
Yeah, I just sent all DIs. I didn't record any guitar tones here.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But did you, I'm imagining that you played like into a plugin of some sort so that it felt right. Like,
yeah. I just didn't have like my clean DI. No. I'm like, this is gonna sound great but I'm not gonna listen to it.
What did you use for reference while you were playing?
I used STL Tones' Tonality Andy James.
Yes.
It's an oldie but goodie, man. Like, I love amp sims and they're so fun, but I noticed like whenever just, the nature of recording with amp sims, the more you like tracks you have, the more lag, the more pops, the more buffer problems, and the more like crashes and all that stuff. I don't have the fastest computer probably either. So it's like, the Andy James, just like, you could have like 24 of them and they never like crash or anything. So it's just like, it sounds good and it's just reliable. You know what I mean?
I've really enjoyed the STL Tone stuff too. I played my brain just failed. Whose do I have? Of the Will Putney one.
Oh, yeah.
I use all the time. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Everything that guy records, it sounds so good.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a preset on there. There's a preset on there. It's like in amp tones. It's number 16. It's like Evergreen something. It's the Diesel. It's like the most unbelievably ridiculous guitar tone I've ever heard. And like, I have that preset memorized. That's how much I love it. So check it out, man. It's wild, dude. That's
super cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed their stuff. And yeah, Will, I mean, he's done some of my favorite records, but specifically like, and I think I'm not unique in this, but that Knocked Loose record that he did, Different Shade of Blue, just like that never gets old to me. That's like that's my lifting record. I just want to get excited about something record. Like I love that album so much. And so much of that is Will's production. Like the guitars sound huge.
All his records sound like unbelievable. How so rad, dude. Yeah. Will's incredibly talented. I got to interview him when I worked with STL Tones. He's a good dude, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was actually supposed to get him on this podcast at one point, and it was this really weird time where like we both kept having to reschedule, and it kind of just fell through the cracks somehow. So I'm gonna have to kick that train back on the rails, because I really want to talk to that guy.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be good for the show.
So right now, who are some of your favorite bands?
Oh man, that's a funny question, because I feel so old with this answer. Like, I always just have like, dude, the older I get, man, I just listen to like Led Zeppelin and Van Halen, like 90 to 95% of the time. That's all I really listen to. So it's such a boring, like I said, old answer. But newer bands, I guess probably my favorite one is probably Spirit Box. I like Spirit Box a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Spirit Box is rad. But dude, apart from that, like, I don't know. Again, like, as I've gotten older, I just kind of see like I'm stuck in my ways, as they say. I really just like listen to what I grew up listening to, and I don't know. I just kind of I'm content with that. And newer bands, there's just so many new bands, and it's so saturated, and that's amazing. And you know, I'm kind of in that pool in some regard, maybe not in a band setting, but you know, social media, whatever. So I get it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I kind of just like Zeppelin and Van Halen. I'm kind of just, I'm just kind of content with that. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thing.
Did you ever do much exploration outside of the rock realm?
Like in terms of like different genres, like hip hop and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I liked the 2000s to 2010s hip hop a little bit. Like there's like a brief stint there where like Lil Wayne, Drake, Eminem, 50, and then like Mac Miller a little bit there for a while, but that was short lived. That was like junior, senior year of high school, and then
Got it.
After that, from there, that's when I got really into like metalcore and like the heavy stuff. Was after that, like in my late teens, early 20s, and then mid 20s on, I kind of just went back to classic rock for whatever reason. I don't know. But you know, that'll probably change sooner rather than later. That's just kind of what I've been really into for the last year and a half or so.
It's interesting how that happens. You know, sometimes we do go in waves. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place at the moment, but my wife has reverted back to like, we both grew up listening to like classic country, like old school outlaw country and stuff. And I still love and listen to a lot of that stuff. But she's like on this deep dive of finding any and all modern artists that fit into that kind of ballpark. So she's just like, have you heard this person? I'm like, wow, there are so many. Like the listeners know this, but I'd kind of like been like, man, most good country is like, there's only a handful of artists that are like doing what I would consider like good country music these days. And she's opened my eyes to like so many new ones. I was like, oh, this is great. This is like, it's not what I thought it was, you know? It's
I wonder
cool
why
when that happens.
I wonder why you have that preconceived notion. Like, there's only. I mean, it sounds like exactly like me. I'm just like It's funny how we think that way sometimes.
I think it's because at my last job, you know, prior to doing this full time, I got browbeat by modern country radio all day. I'm gonna put that in air quotes. Modern country radio, and it was just like, this is terrible. And that's all that anybody would allow to be on the radio in the office there. And so I tried to be out of the office as much as possible, but I still had paperwork to do. And it was just like, man, I stood up one day and I was like, you realize they've played this same song 6 times since I've been here. And I've only been here like 4 hours.
Oh,
like,
wow.
It was crazy. I kept a check mark. I don't remember which song it was, but it was some really bad Florida Georgia Line song or something.
Yeah.
And so I'd kind of like just thought, I'm like, well, I guess we got Chris Stapleton. And he's the only one on the radio, and then we have, you know, Sturgill Simpson, who's not on the radio, you know, Jason Isbell, who's also not on the radio, and then like a handful of the people around the Dave Cobb, you know, web of influence that are doing it. But there's so many more. I was not as plugged in as I should have been for as much as I like that genre of music. So
well, it's so hard to just, even with what genre of music or anything that you love, there's just so much out there. Period. It's like, it's hard to keep up, man. You know what I mean?
It is very hard to keep up, and that's a good problem to have, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's nice to be spoiled for choice. It does sometimes feel like an overwhelming amount, and it kind of is in some ways, but there's always been a lot of music, really. Like even when it was harder to record, when you had to, pay a bunch of money to a studio or whatever, there's still like, go to a record store and start thumbing through. There's millions of records that you've never heard before.
Right. Yeah. So I guess it's just so much fast. You can get hit with so much more music, for example, so much faster, I guess, or so much more instantaneously. Yeah,
we're really spoiled. It's never been a better time to be a music fan, and it's never been a better time to be a guitar player.
Yeah,
really,
it's pretty rad on all fronts, generally speaking, from the amount of gear we can have and how we can get our music out to whoever. We can have the world in our pocket with our phone. It's pretty rad. You know what I mean?
I mean, just think back to when we were kids, right? If you would have told me that, like, oh, you can, spend like, a little bit of money on a guitar and you can plug into this amp sim and sound just as good as some of the records that you listen to, it would have blown my mind. Like,
yeah,
because I always knew there was something off, about like what I was doing with my solid state practice amps and stuff. I was like, that doesn't sound like Slipknot. What's going on here? Even if I played it right, it's like, that doesn't sound right. I just didn't know. But man, what you can do today with a pretty limited budget is incredible. Like, really, it's amazing what we can do now.
You can have a whole rig for $150.
Yeah.
Like
a good one.
I guess a great one. I guess you just need some sort of monitoring system if you want to play it live or whatever. But like, you could even go to direct. I'm just thinking like in a live setting, you can go direct to front of house.
Yeah.
For $150 and like a MIDI switcher if you want that. Like that's so rad, dude.
It is.
Like that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I was gonna say, but I am stubborn. Like I still love the old school heavy amps and cabs.
Me too.
they're fun too. So, but yeah, I just want to say that. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I am only a recent, like, I wouldn't say convert. That's not the right term, but like I've only recently accepted how good modeling is these days.
Why were you so apprehensive?
I wasn't really apprehensive. I was just mostly, my attitude was like, I don't really need it.
Okay.
Like I don't tour. I play out here. I can play as loud as I want, pretty much whenever I want. So why would I even care? That
makes total sense.
That was my attitude. But now that I have played some of it, and especially A/B'd it with stuff that I owned and was very familiar with, and was like, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Like I was at the workflow is what I was missing. I was like, oh, I can just work so much more efficiently, especially for, specific things, especially like pedal demos where I'm like, I just need this to sound accurate, and I can crank this out relatively quickly. If I'm playing music for myself or like recording music for music's sake, I'm still going to plug into like a ridiculous wall of amplifiers and just because I want that experience. But I now see, but I'll always make sure to take a DI too, because I might want to mess around with it with other things too. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's that. So I might have been like a little bit poo-pooing in a joking way, but realistically, it was just because like I don't need to do that, so why would I? But now I understand. I've seen the lights.
Yeah. It's like I sent my DIs for my album, and what I like the idea of like capturing the real sound in real time, because it's like it'll never be replicated. That's a moment in time. It's kind of out there of a thought process, but like that moment in time will never be replicated. Like you caught it with that mic placement, that room, that preamp, whatever, cab, all the above. So like it'll always be unique to your experience, but like an amp sim will always sound the same every single time on everybody's DI. So it's like, I just view it as like, unfortunately, it's not your like moment in time captured tone. Right. I just think that's like a cool thing as well with guitar playing. I think that's a cool little thing.
It's something that I think we as players like appreciate, like the idea like that mic caught those air molecules moving at just the right moment.
You get it.
You get it. There's something kind of special about it, especially in in certain environments and places too.
Yeah.
There's some places you walk in. Like I did a tour of RCA Studio B in Nashville, which is kind of a touristy thing to do, but like it was they do a cool thing where they tell you all the story and they take you in the main room and they shut the lights off and they play like an Elvis song. And then I got like goosebumps. I know that was like the intended effect, but I was like, whoa, this room's got something in it. Like these walls have experienced
that's awesome,
something.
Dude. Yeah. It's like, would you rather like play your, like do what I did, send your DI to whoever to mix whatever? Or like, would you like want to record it like, I don't know, like Electric Lady Studios in New York City. You know what I mean? Like, how sick would that be? Yeah, so you get it.
Yeah, I hope that those places survive. That's really, really challenging to keep a high-end studio rolling, and it's because as great as all this stuff is, it is causing the death of a lot of these places because you can record world-class stuff in your bedroom if you so choose.
Yeah,
and it's hard to when you can do that, and when everybody knows you can do that, it's hard to justify. From a record company perspective, like, oh, we're gonna pay like how many 100,000 to record here? Are we gonna see a return on that? Maybe, probably not though. Like,
we can make obviously make way more money saving by doing it the more affordable way. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope for the history of music's sake that some of those places can survive because they are special and they deserve the status that they've achieved in a lot of ways. And it's something that's always in the back of my mind when I'm like praising modern recording technology. I'm like, oh, but hopefully don't we keep some tape machines around? Like, please.
Yeah, just for the sake of having them. Yeah, we don't have to get rid of them, but like, yeah. The hard part would be like getting like standalone studios to not be like turned into apartments and or torn down. Like, because I feel like somebody will always hold on to like the gear, like, the Neve board or, you know what I mean? Like, but like the actual spot itself is just as important. The actual structure itself, the actual rooms themselves. So like Sunset Sound, like hope that always stays Sunset Sound,
Right. Right. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you saw the Sound City documentary from years ago, but like, man, that one, like, it's like, it's gone. I mean, Dave still has the console, and that's great, but it's gone, and
it's not there anymore.
It's not there. It's tough. I think about like Abbey Road and all these places. It's like, man, there's I don't know, maybe it's just nostalgia, but I'm like, to me, there's something in the walls. Something penetrates the walls once they've had those kind of records recorded there. They literally did like, those sound waves literally did bounce around in there. I feel like some mojo got rubbed off somehow.
I feel like you're hoping it like bounces onto you when you walk in there or something.
Yeah, just licking the walls. Like, come on, give me the mojo. Maybe don't do that. Maybe that's a bad idea.
Hey, you said it, man.
I say a lot of things. I say a lot of ridiculous things on this podcast.
Sorry, I love it. I'm here for it.
So, before we segue into the last section of the show, I keep seeing your Balaguer, and I want to talk to you about it. I was purposely like, I'll talk to him about it on the show because it looks awesome, and it feels like it's spec'd out fairly unique. So, like, why don't you tell us about it?
All right, want me to go get it?
Yeah, go get it. We're on video these days. Let's do it.
Go get it. It's like literally right there.
All right, he's going to get it, everybody. For the audio listeners at home, I'll narrate his journey. Oh, he didn't have to go that far. He just reached around back there, and he's back.
All right. It's so large that I always have to be sure I'm not knocking into something. So I don't know how well you can see it, but here we have my 30-inch Balaguer guitar baritone.
Wow. 30-inch. That's a long boy.
Yeah, it's so big, dude.
I play a 28, and I feel like I'm almost on a bass.
Dude, I don't know why. Like, I felt like, I guess it was like I don't want to say like a badge of honor, but it's like, dude, 30, hell yeah, let's go for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna play baritone, play a baritone. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
But yeah, dude. So like, I built this. Dude, honestly, ironically, I built it 1 year ago today. Like, that's on May 4th, 2021. I built this thing. So, yeah, that was weird. But yeah, this is a Balaguer Select Custom. And it's the Toro Motto, so like the S style. And it's got a hip shot bridge, 30-inch roasted maple neck bolt-on, silver
Love
burst.
roasted maple.
Yeah, roasted maple's so sick, dude. 24 frets, jumbo stainless steel, ebony board. Silver burst, the best finish of all time. And then the like most unique thing about this baritone is the pickups. These are the Balaguer Master Coil Jazz Master pickups.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So everybody calls these P90s. They're not P90s.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So,
that's what gives. Go ahead.
Are they more of like a vintage style Jazz Master, or are they a little hotter? What's the deal with them?
Dude, I have no idea. I have no clue. I don't know I think they're like. Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know if they're hot or not. These pickups, these style of pickups. I got this idea from the Squier Vintage Modified Baritone Jazz Master. That's also 30 inches. So I literally spec'd out this guitar to pay homage to that. And that's the only Jazz Master I've ever played, and this is the second Jazz Master style of guitar I've ever played. So like I'm so naive to like what's good in terms of like Jazz Master pickups. All I know is these things have insane clank and clarity, and they buzz, but they have so much like definition and cut in drop F with a lot of distortion, and it's so fun. So yeah, dude, I'm really naive with like the pickup specifically, but I just know it has that unique sound and such a low tuning.
I think specifically for low tuning, like baritone style guitars, single coils are underrated for heavy music. I really do.
Dude.
It's that bite, like, because when you're already in that lower register, you know, if you not all the time, but if you have a humbucker in there, it can literally be just like too muddy, and you just don't punch through in the same way. And I feel like a single coil really balances it out really nice. I guess if you can see that over there, that's my Grez Guitars Mendocino. It's a 28-inch scale, and it's got Lawler gold foil pickups in it. And it
cool.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the magic. Like, it's lower output single coils, the longer scale drop tuning. It's lots of distortion. It's so good.
Yeah, I obviously agree. Do you ever hear of the band Loathe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like they used those Squier Jazz Masters. They kind of made that guitar famous. And I think they're an E of some sort, drop or standard, like an octave below. So
okay,
like they're way down there. So I took the F approach because I love Meshuggah, and they're on F standard on an 8-string,
right?
Predominantly. So like I play in drop, and exclusively like a drop tuning. It's just typical cliche metal player. But the single coils, the pickups, man, it's just like you said, it's just incredibly underrated, and a lot of people don't understand like why I did that for a modern metal player until they like try it themselves, or like I guess just like try it themselves, or like hear it in a room or something. Then they kind of get it. So I played this guitar all over the country relatively recently, and the people who came out to see, you know, me play in this guitar, they kind of got it once they like saw it and heard it, because it's something that it's hard to describe in a YouTube video or like a demo or whatever. You got to like try it yourself, and you see how clean and clear they are. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, my first experience with that, I can't remember. I think we just tuned down to B, if I remember correctly. Was with my 74 Tele Custom. Oh, actually, it's right back there. That one. It's okay. 74 Tele Custom, and the strings were way too light for the song we were playing. We were playing a Thrice cover, but we're like, let's just try it. And so I tuned it down to like B, and they were flopping around. That felt terrible, but it sounded awesome. Like, I was like, whoa. That was when I was like, wait a minute. Drop tuning with single coils is cooler than with humbuckers, in my opinion. Dude. You know, like
or maybe not cooler, but it's it's possible. Like a lot of people think, you know, like drop, you know, all right, drop A, EMG or Fishman Modern, like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, let's get some blackouts in there, and like single coils aren't even like ever a thought process. So and I, you know, dude, I'm speaking from experience. I never thought that would be something I would ever play. But here we are. So yeah, it's just like a really unique thing, and I'm super stoked. And Balaguer killed it, man. They knocked it out of the park with this one. Super rad.
They make good stuff. Joe's cool.
They do.
Yep.
Joe's awesome.
Yep. Well, let's see. We're approaching the end of the main podcast, and I do have a couple of the classic questions to ask you.
Okay.
But before I do that, this is the chance where I like to give the guests a chance to take the floor, shout out anybody they want to shout out, say hi to their grandma, anything that they want to do. Like, the floor is yours right now to if you want to talk to a couple thousand people.
Oh, well, I'll say this, man. I just sincerely want to give you a shout out for having me on here. This was when you asked me this just, I think, last night. I was so stoked, man. So I want to thank you, man. And I just want to thank like Balaguer Guitars for being rad, and Victory Amps and Stringjoy and EMG. Those are my companies that work with me. I'm honored to say those companies' names. Like, they're so good to me. So that's all I want to say for right now.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, I was just sitting there. I just finished listening to your Man the Helm interview, and I was like, wait a minute. I was supposed to message him about this like 3 weeks ago. So I just hopped on Instagram. I was like, send him a message real quick.
Yeah, like 15 hours later, here we are.
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool. Now we're doing it.
Sweet. Yeah.
And it really can be that easy, folks. Like, people ask me sometimes, like, how do you get people on the show? I'm like, literally email and Instagram DMs 99% of the time. Like, occasionally I'll go through management. Sometimes it's usually a manager that I've worked with before that, happened to hit me up. Usually is how that works, but it's rare. It's almost always like I get their email from somebody or on their website or wherever, or I just shoot them a message on Instagram. Like, it's
can't hurt, man.
If you're not a creep, people usually respond to you.
Right. and I was so stoked, man, that you reached out. So thank you, man. Really, seriously.
Well, and I know on behalf of the whole Stringjoy team, we're stoked that you're on board with us. That was really exciting.
I love it, man. I showed you this before, but yeah, dude, just
woo
right next to me, within an arm's reach. I got them. They're awesome. I love Stringjoy, man. They're so rad. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, classic questions, and we'll wrap up this main portion before we slide over to the really cool kid section of the podcast. All right, firstly,
send it.
What's your favorite Boss pedal?
Boss HM2.
Ooh, the HM2. Nice.
Yeah, dude. I found those like relatively recently once they reissued them. Dude, my favorite.
Yeah, I haven't tried the reissue yet, but I have an old one, and then I actually made a clip of well, as this podcast comes out, it'll probably be a month ago, but of an HM2 and a MT2 and a Metal Zone plugged in together. And I was just I wonder what this is going to sound like. And actually, I got it sounding pretty good. Like,
dude.
I was like, yeah, this chugs. This works.
Yeah. I'd imagine it would chug, as they say. Yeah.
It does chug. It also needed a noise gate, but that's fine. That's
whatever,
to be
dude.
expected. Yeah. Deal with the bees. If you never stop playing, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
And if the applause of the crowd will overshadow the hiss and the white noise anyway.
Absolutely. HM2, nice pull. I like that.
Thank you.
All right, final question. And this is the one that gets a little bit dicey, gets people in a little bit of trouble, but I think you're probably prepared for this.
All right, I hope so.
What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, dude. Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak pizza. Now, this is a first.
Cheesesteak.
Tell me more about the Philly cheesesteak pizza.
All right. You have the Philly cheesesteak, right? Go with me on this. And you have a pizza. Nah, I'm just kidding. But no, dude, like they put like the white cheese on and like cheesesteak meat and like some peppers and onions. And yeah, like they put the ingredients of a cheesesteak on piece of pizza. I mean, the names,
so they're not. It's not
the
like
names.
Mixed.
The names in the definition.
So it's not like sometimes people like I don't know. I was like, is there red sauce involved? But probably not. It's just the cheesesteak stuff. Dude, and then the melted cheese.
So I'll be honest, I haven't had a piece of pizza in like 15 years.
Whoa!
But when I was a kid, I used to like house Philly cheesesteak pizzas.
15 years you haven't had a piece of pizza. That's a rough way to go, man.
Yeah, well, like I could be a bit of a hyperbole. Like maybe one time, like when I was living in Germany, we were out training or whatever. Maybe like they had pizza. I was it for dinner. I probably had one then, maybe. But like at home, leisurely, when I have the ability, I haven't had pizza in a long time.
Wow. I haven't had it in a long time, but that was just been like since last night. So it was,
It's been since lunch, dude. Nah, I miss pizza, man. I just can't do it anymore.
I got it, man. I understand. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. This is a blast, and I'm excited to see what we get into on the Patreon section
on
of the podcast.
On the cool guy side, as you called it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thanks, man. I really, seriously, one more time, thank you so much. I hope it went well. I think it went well.
I know it went well. It did.
Ah, cool. Sweet, man. I had a lot of fun.
I've done a few of these. This one went well. Yeah.
All right. Sweet, dude. Right on, man. I feel better now.
Yeah. All right, everybody. For Ray, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. There you have it. There it is. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Ray and I really went into some much deeper territory on the Patreon section of the podcast. So if you'd like to get that content and you'd like to support the show, help keep this thing going, $5 a month is all it is. I know I say that every week and you probably get tired of hearing it and you're just bored of it at this point. But seriously, it helps so much. It helps enormously. It literally is a huge part of the reason why I can do this, because it pays my electrical bill. And without electricity, this does not happen. So thank you to all the patrons. And just know, if you're not in a position to do that right now, I totally get it. Things are weird. Things are wacky. But I'm going to do my best to still bring as much quality content to your ears for free as I can. And with that in mind, please, I know I say this every week, but please share this with somebody that you think would enjoy it. That is why this works. That is why I'm able to get people like Ray. That's why I'm able to, do this at all, honestly, is because people listen. So thank you very much. Thank you for spending the time with me. And hey, don't forget about the listener meetup in Nashville this weekend, the 21st, 2022. That would be May 21st, 2022. So if anybody's listening in the future, don't get sidetracked. We're doing this in 2022. So I'm looking to eat some food, looking to hang out with some cool people, and I will be posting some sort of something here in the next few days once I have things more nailed down. This is kind of a by the seat of my pants thing. I just decided to do this. So let's do it. Let's hang out. Let's eat. All right. Anyway, I'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you again. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.